Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Elisha Space. I am just extremely excited to have you guys here with me. So thankful that you're able to join. I just want to say that I'm always hopeful when I get messages or when I hear from you guys in the comments or even in private messages. It makes a difference because it also tells me that it's helping you. So I really appreciate the time that you guys take to listen. I don't take that for granted at all. Today, I have the great pleasure of having Armando Roman with us. Now, he is someone who is a self-made entrepreneur, has been doing great things with his life. He's a seasoned real estate broker and investor, a bilingual professional who's fluent in both Spanish and English. He is from Massachusetts, and he's built a strong reputation by flipping 10 or more properties a year, which is, if you know anything about that business, that's amazing. And he sells over 150 homes. In addition to his work in brokerage, he's also actively involved in real estate development as a co-founder of Signature Realty. And he is dedicated to providing his clients with exceptional service, always rooted in excellence and integrity for their real estate needs. With all of that being said, he is here to also share his story with us, his story of how that led him to a deeper journey just beyond his business and where it got him to this place. He wants to share his story with us. And as you guys know, I am all good for authentic conversation and hearing a great testimony and story. So Armando, I want to welcome you to the show. Welcome to Elisha Space.
Thank you, Elisha. Thank you to your listeners. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, of course. And yeah, just looking forward to having a great conversation and getting to know you more. Obviously, you guys get to know me more and have a great conversation.
That's fantastic. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So Armando, as much as you'd like to share and as much as you're comfortable, what would you like to share with us?
Sure. So I like to share I like to motivate others. And a lot of people feel like takes a special skills or you have to have certain type of qualities that are supernatural. And I tell you, most people that are successful and have accomplished things by the grace of God and humility, I've accomplished some stuff in my 40 years of living. It's really basic characteristics and certain qualities that pretty much every human possesses. But unfortunately, a lot of folks are not able to kind of allow those to manifest. And a lot of it has to do with confidence. And I enjoy helping others build that confidence within and realizing that I'm a big God follower. So just being able to be aligned with the Lord and what his plans are for us, it's something that I take a lot of pride on, and just having that relationship with the Lord myself. And what is my purpose in life? I always knew that I wanted more out of life. And growing up as an only child, overly sheltered and just isolated, created a lot of anxiety, a lot of shyness.
How are you over sheltered?
I was brought up in a very religious home, good and bad. It did shelter me from some of the bad things as well, but it didn't allow me really to express myself as an individual. And it created resentment that I had to battle through my adulthood as well. And
Did you have some issues or challenges with communication since?
I did. Yep, I did. I was very socially, I wouldn't say overly socially awkward, but I had some awkwardness.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to communicate with people. And part of being an only child, I didn't have any siblings, which made it difficult to, I guess, be empathetic towards others and loving and showing with expressions. So I struggled with that a lot, and definitely affected me as I was growing.
So
growing
how
up.
did you learn, like, how did you get better your communication? Because you're in sales. So when you're in sales, you have to know how to communicate. So what was your journey? How did you get there?
Yeah, so I reinforced my relationship with the Lord. I kind of felt like I was more like a forced when I was young and
Mm-hmm.
immature. But as I
Mm-hmm.
grew, I got to get a closer relationship, like I said, with the Lord. And through ministry, I was able to start kind of getting out of my shell. So I was able
Okay.
to help work with the youth, at a closer groups. Then I was able to preach the word in bigger group settings, translating from my father, who's a minister, in his Sunday services, because we have bilingual services. So all those things started getting me out of my shell, as well as when I went to college, UMass Amherst, getting to know people and being outside of the home where I was very, very sheltered, and getting out there, making mistakes. I think it's important that we don't see mistakes or obstacles or decisions that we make that weren't the best at the time, and not dwell on those. I think a lot of times we tend to dwell on our mistakes, and we allow that to imprison us, our minds specifically, even our heart, right? Imprison us and not allow us to kind of grow from that experience. And it should be a lesson. It should be a way that it matures you and it processes you and builds your character. But a lot of folks don't allow that to occur in its natural form. And I think it's a blessing from the Lord when we go through difficult times, situations that should be allowing us to grow, but because we hold on to that resentment and we stay in that imprisonment of our own mind, really, instead of being freed, and we don't grow. So I think that's one message that I like to tell people is they talk about their past all the time. And it's great if you use it as a testimony, as an example that you can overcome things. But a lot of folk use it not for that purpose. They use it in a way to kind of shell their lack of effort, their lack of moving forward, the inability. They allow it to almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Remove the
It's
ability.
a stuck point.
A stuck point, yes. They've almost like a handicap, and they use that and to stay stuck where they're at.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think, okay, so if we're gonna go spiritual, because I knew we kind of were, but I wasn't sure. But hey, let's go for it. So I kind of think that resentment tends to connect itself to insecurity and fear a lot, right?
Yes.
And jealousy too, all of that. And that's not all of it, but it's part of it, right? So because those things can connect itself to different things, but it's all bad, it's all toxic, right? And a lot of times what'll happen is if you find yourself in a space where you're constantly in a place of resentment, anger, disappointment, frustration. My spiritual mom used to say something to me, and it's always stuck with me. And she's not with us today, but it's always stuck with me. One of the things she used to say was, what you fear grows and what you starve dies. So if you're feeding the negativity, the resentment, then that's going to grow. But if you're going into a place of maybe a shift in mindset of this is where I get to be, this is where I get to do, of gratitude, excitement, of expectation, a heart of expectation, then it shifts what you're trying to grow. Does that make sense? So,
Absolutely.
so and this is, I believe this is true. This is not just a spiritual truth. I think this is just true for anybody, really. People that have challenges with depression, for example, Armando, they if one of the things that is taught is or is brought up is try to think of some things that you're grateful for, right? Because it shifts the energy of thinking you're in a place of lack, which resentment kind of feeds on. So it prevents you from going from a place of lack to a place of abundance. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about, man, I'm okay. I'm better than what I was. I'm not as bad as quick as what I was before, because I guarantee you there is somebody else out there that's in a worse situation than you.
Absolutely. I like the way you put that, Elisha. And just thinking about mental health as you were mentioning all these things and how important it is to take care of our mind. And I think it's something that's very neglected in many communities and a lot of cultures
Right.
throughout the world. And mental health, because if your mind is healed, or if you're in the process of healing your mind and you have a sound mind, you really deflect a lot of this negativity that people allow it to kind of stick to them,
Right.
almost so. And just thinking about most human beings that are in a good mental state, right? They have the capacity and the abilities to succeed in anything they put their mind into. They
Right.
really do. They put some
It's
effort
a
and work.
secret sauce, I think.
It really is. It starts with your mind, having a good heart and obviously a strong mind. Listen, everyone that I know of, at least in America and many countries throughout the world, they have this device. And this device can be used, just this is an example, right? Of many things.
In case you're just listening as to us audibly, he picked up his cell phone. Like, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
This cell phone device, because everyone pretty much has a smartphone nowadays, and it doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or an Android, they're all effective tools. This device, we could do this episode right just on this device. I could be on my
Right.
phone.
Absolutely.
This device has the ability to allow you to start a business, build a business, get sales, make money, support your family. And I think a lot of folks underestimate the tools that they have in their hands. They have a voice, they have a sound mind. And if you don't, you should be working on that, right? Find a spiritual leader among counseling service. Not trying to promote you here a little bit, but find a way to connect, okay, with someone to allow that healing, right? And I like my relationship with God. I like to pray, and obviously having people to talk to is important in your life. But if there are enough tools for all of us to be successful.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, because you talked about how growing up you said you were a preacher's kid, PK, right?
Yes,
I was a PK too. And you had talked about how it was a very strict and structured home.
Yes.
And that you did it, and you felt like it affected your ability to communicate in different places, and that getting involved in doing ministry brought you to that place.
Yes.
What would you say how that has affected your ability to do what you're doing now in your current business? Because you have an outstanding, like most people that flip houses, they don't have the success rate you have. You are an anomaly in a lot of cases.
Thank you, Elisha. Very, very kind and a great observation. I come from a place of humility and hard work, and I have a grit, so I never quit. I am always, even when I lost, because I lost 4 businesses prior to figuring out real estate. I had a yoga shop. Yeah, I had a yoga shop. Tried that a couple times. It was kind of a fad at the time, so it kind of crashed.
Right.
I had a bodega. I had a Cold Stone Creamery franchise in the Boston that the mall took over the entire section and shut us out essentially, and just different businesses. And I took all those lessons. Like I said, I didn't get stuck, back to that word, and eventually got to real estate, which indirectly I was in that space as a landlord. I bought some properties, sold them off, and then I was more of an amateur investor. And at some point, I decided to kind of take it more serious and really study more real estate. Started getting into some of the podcasts. Podcasts are great for knowledge and education, and got myself a partner. I always say that God put him in my path, Noah, and him and I started working together. And then just one thing led to the other. Got my license to be able to find properties quicker. We were buying rentals that were a little bit distressed, fixing them up, refinancing them, and keeping those properties for rental income. Eventually, we sold those off, but then I started flipping properties. So I'm always in a place where, okay, I'm hungry. Every day I wake up and I'm not satisfied, because I know there's more and I expect more of myself and I hold myself accountable. So I think having the strict home and a mother specifically that held me accountable and said, hey, you can't just call out from work just because you're not feeling mentally all there. Maybe it would have made sense to take time off, but she didn't allow it. So I had to go to work, and that kind of molded me into who I am today, where there's very few things that kind of throw me off, to be honest, or stress me out to the point where I'm not effective. And obviously I'm still human, but I find solution. I'm always in solution-based conversations. People that are around me, how important it is to have the right people around you, especially in leadership.
Right. We were just talking about that. Yes.
Absolutely. We had a great conversation as we were trying to connect to technology and everything, right? And getting ourselves acclimated. So having good people around you is very important. And I have a few selected people that I call friends, because not everyone can be a friend.
Absolutely.
There are people that are friendly and you talk to. That doesn't mean they have your best interests at heart. And to me, a true friend, it represents you when you're not present. Okay. So if they're not representing you good when you're not present, that's not a real friend, but that's on the topic for a different day. But having good people around you, having a good mind, and just keeping yourself always active and figuring things out and having systems and processes. If we're going to go on the business route, when you're managing multiple projects, you have to have good contractors. Again, back to people. People make the business. I'm not the business, it's the people that work with
Right.
me and for me, right? So
Right.
we're a team, we're a collaborative, we're a family, a business family, and the mission is to rebuild these properties, rehab them, make them great so that families can purchase these properties and have a great life. So that's the end goal. My investment company is called Healthy Neighborhoods Group, LLC. And the idea was always that we're going to bring more healthy homes into the neighborhoods. We're going to make neighborhoods healthier. And it's always an idea of like, yes, we're making money, but there's a greater goal. You know, I don't want to just hack a house and do a bad job and cover things up and sell somebody a bad product. Because again, that affects me in business and my reputation. But even putting that aside for a moment, it's also not the right thing to do. And I like to do things with integrity. I want to do the right thing and not just make money. There's a lot of ways to make money, and I want to do it helping people rather than breaking down communities. Hence why maybe I'm not an attorney, for example. Not all attorneys are bad, but just throwing that out there.
No problem. No problem. So, okay. So you and I both know, especially as business owners, that you can't have, there's not a lot of room for negative energy when you're running a business, right?
Mhm.
There's
Yes.
just not. So, how did you shift your mindset? Because you had talked about some things that you were dealing with when you were younger. What changed for you? What was that process like? Can you break that down step by step? How you did that,
Sure,
or what
sure.
that
So,
journey looked like?
yeah, so the biggest thing, I've always been an independent person
Mm-hmm.
and kind of grew up being isolated. So it's just once I removed myself from my parents' house and got my own apartment, eventually bought a house, my mind started through God healing, having more clarity. I was in a divorce. I was previously married for over a decade. That put me also in a bad mind space after a number of years in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost felt like God was removing me from certain situations. Like, okay, you got to go through this. So you have the lessons so you can help others. You can preach to others of what you've been through and how you overcame them. So again, remove myself from being in those environments around people that are not supposed to be part of my next step, my next chapter of my life. Because there's a lot of people that God will put in your life for a season, but it
Right.
doesn't mean they're there for the rest of your life. They're just there for a season and for whatever purpose is intended for your life. So it's understanding that there are certain seasons where people are going to be present, and then the next season they might not, and that's okay. And there are others that are going to be there lifelong people. So that's one thing, and it's always trying to stay positive. Mindset is very important. So even if my circumstance is not ideal, even if it's dark, right? I'm in the shadow of valley or death. I know that He's with me, and even though it appears to be dark, I know if I just visualize it's not dark and there's light, and I can only control my own actions, right? I can't always control people that are in my community, in my neighborhood, in my family, right? Because there's a lot of family that unfortunately not very supportive. They're very negative. So we'll hang out at Thanksgiving, maybe Christmas, but I don't want to keep them around if they're negative, even though if they're family. Okay. So if they're not serving me and we're not serving each other or helping each other grow, then these are people that I really don't want to spend a lot of time, quite frankly. So I learned, to answer your question, Elijah, I learned to be selfish. I know it sounds a little out there, a little crazy, or almost it shouldn't be the case, but being selfish many times is very important because you have to take care of yourself. If you're not taking care of your body, right, and taking care of yourself, you can't be there for others. I have to prioritize myself even over my children. And I love my
Right.
kids. I do
Right.
anything. I take a bullet for my kids, right? However, if my mind is not right, if I don't feel emotionally healthy, physically I'm not healthy, it's difficult for me to serve my children. So I've learned to obviously prioritize the Lord, but I've learned to prioritize myself and be selfish also with my time. Okay. If you're in business, you have to prioritize clients too. Not every client is
Absolutely.
there to pull.
Hi there, friends. Elisha here. You and I, we're on this winding road of life together, and I'd like to share a little piece of my soul with you, something to bring us closer on this shared journey of growth and self discovery. The mental Health Handbook is a piece of that shared journey. And it's not just a collection of my thoughts, it's a sanctuary where we can learn resilience and arm ourselves with self care tools for those days that just feel too heavy. Consider it a conversation between friends, one that I hope brings you comfort and strength. And for those times when we seek quiet reflection, I've crafted the mindfulness coloring book for adults. Picture us side by side, lost in the simple joy of coloring, allowing the stillness and the words of peace and forgiveness to wrap around us like warm embrace. I want these books to be part of your journey, to walk with you and guide you towards a fuller, more peaceful heart. It's a path we travel together, one filled with understanding, care, and the gentle reminder that you're not alone. Both the Mental Health Handbook and Mindfulness Coloring Book for Adults are waiting for you on Amazon and at the Restoring You Christian Counseling website. These spaces are more than just stories, they're gateways to the experiences we can share and grow from. Let's take this step to nurture our mental and spiritual health together. Find the books and let's start unfolding the beauty and strength that lies within us, page by page, color by color. Thank you for letting me part of your journey. Here's to the discoveries we'll make and the peace we'll find together.
Attention. Unfortunately,
Right.
there's some clients that are just not paying enough. Okay. And maybe there's a service we can offer them, but you can't expect premium service if you're not paying premium price. Okay. It's just business. It's what's fair, it's fair. And then if you have clients that are willing to one, work with you, they're following instructions. Let's say you give them an assignment in your line of field. I don't really know it too much, but if they have an assignment and they're putting in the effort and putting in the work to improve, then that's a client that you're going to definitely put a little more effort into them because they're matching your energy and you're matching what you guys are trying to accomplish versus, someone that doesn't care. They're not willing to work with you. Then that's going to be challenging. But so I went through the divorce process. It broke me emotionally for a season and mentally, but again, gotta be in my rock and always looking out for my mental health. I've always allowed myself to heal through those processes, finding outside activities, relying on family and friends that were positive, that people that were solution based, just like me. You have to find the like minded individuals because, one like minded individual can do a lot of work. But if there's a few of them together, they can conquer, an entire village.
So it's something I believe the Lord gave me. It really is an authentic conversation, right? So anyway, there is a woman, her name was Catherine Coleman. Have you heard of her, Catherine Coleman?
Yes, I have. Yep.
So Catherine Coleman, the audience, in case you weren't, she was I consider
Prophet.
her to be like a general of the faith, like one of the generals. She she was divorced, and it was, I believe it was at a time where overall churches didn't believe that the institutional churches, I'll say it that way, didn't believe that women should preach in church. And so in her prayer time, the Lord told her, open up tents, go to the tents. So she started a tent ministry like R.W. Shambach or any of those. And she would go and she would preach. And see, your gift, which you're kind of, I'm getting to what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Your gift always, audience, makes room for you. So if you that are shutting or people that are saying certain things, just keep at what you believe you are supposed to do because a door will open for you. Don't give
I
up.
like that. Amen. Amen.
So anyway, later on, she was getting invitations to speak at churches because her gift was making room for her.
Yes.
And there were miracle signs and wonders that would occur at tents. And one of the things that she said is that as you get closer in your relationship with the Lord, a lot of times you get to a place where others are not always with you, where others won't be able to relate to you. And it's not because you're at this big spiritual woo 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 place.
Right.
It's really because you are nearer to the Lord. And so there's some things that this is just how it is for Christians in general, at least how it should be. There's some things it's not that you don't you don't even want to do it because it's your heart has shifted, it's changed. It talks about in the word about how he'll take our heart, how he transforms our heart of stone to a heart of flesh, right?
Mm.
And that's
Yeah,
literally what happened. And I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about relationship. Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the things that I've come to about what we're talking about is that sometimes this journey of being a leader, being a business owner, and being a leader can be lonely because not
Mhm.
everybody understands or gets what we go through or what you do. Right. And so it's almost as if it's almost like there are people who are on the grass and then there's people who are on the beach. And so a lot of times when you're on grass, right, you keep your tennis shoes on and you move differently when you're on grass. It's easier actually to move in grass than it is in the sand. It's
Mhm.
easier to take your shoes off in the sand, right? And it's easier to, because if you keep your shoes on in the sand, to me, it's harder to move. It's harder to walk. It's
Yeah,
like you're
extra. Yeah.
stomping. You get where I'm
Mhm.
coming from. So what I'm hearing you say is that you've been moved from a place of being on the grass to being on the beach.
Yes,
And you're
100%.
finding people who are also on the beach with you.
Absolutely. It's just
I
being
said all of
open
that to say
to.
that.
Yeah, no, I love that analogy. I think it's perfect. Just there's people that are just that God has different plans for them and they're built differently. There's just a big calling over there. Like I won't say greater because we all have a great calling, but some people just have certain callings from the Lord, like the preacher that you mentioned. I can't pronounce her name that well, but
Catherine Coleman. Yes.
Catherine, yeah.
Yes.
So she had a special calling, and like you said, the gift opens doors. And if you allow me, this reminds me of the story of Joseph.
Right.
Joseph, he had a tumultuous life,
Great story. Yes. I thought of that
good
too, but go
ups,
ahead.
a lot of downs, right? And Joseph was a dreamer. And I think for the audience that's listening to us, I like you to take a moment, maybe after the podcast or as you're listening to it, is now start thinking about what are these dreams that you have. And again, I know this is not a religious podcast, but I'm big on
No,
the
it
Lord.
is. We talk about Christianity and faith
Amen.
and
Amen.
mental health. So, yes, you can. Go ahead.
Amen. So, what is the dreams that these aren't just your dreams? These are dreams that God gave you, that you
Mhm.
have abandoned them, you have forgotten them. Maybe life got in the way. Maybe being busy got in the way. Maybe the kids, in a way, got in the way. Okay. And you put them aside, you shelf those dreams. And you sometimes even wonder, hey, I'm surprised I've made it this far in life. I had a situation last year where I almost lost my life. People have in that situation have died or whatever it is, where I overcame cancer. There's people that have survived cancer one, twice. It's insane. When people are dying from cancer, there are survivors out there that are surviving it and they think they take it for granted or they don't think a lot about it. Some of them, not all, but and it's your purpose. You're not done in the earth. There's a bigger, greater calling over your life. And I know it sounds maybe over spiritually, but I truly believe that those gifts that you have had and you've shelved, there's a reason for those gifts. It's not just a coincidence. Those gifts were planted by God, by the Lord. Okay. And take a moment and think about what those are that brings you happiness, that brings you joy. Maybe it is to be able to motivate others, help others going through struggles. Maybe you're a single mother, right? And your dream is to start a program to help other single mothers. I think that's awesome. And now it's time to unshelf those gifts and put an action plan. Oh, I can't do it. This and the third. I think it was Moses that said, "Oh, I can't speak well. I stutter. I stutter too sometimes." Listen, but he put all these excuses, but let's remove the excuses, okay? And if you're having mental health issues, that's something that you need to heal from, and you can heal from it, okay? Remove all those things, all those barriers, that jail cell that you've put yourself in. Open the doors because you have the key and get out of it and start going after your dreams. But back to the story of Joseph. Speaking of jail cells, this man, as a dreamer, a young dreamer, right? So find that young dreamer in you, okay? Was spoke too soon, right? We recognize that. But even through our mistakes, God uses them to propel us, okay? Made a mistake, told his dreams to the wrong people, okay? That's why it's important to have certain people around you and not other people around you. Anyhow, ends up in the pit. We know the story, right? I'm going to go through it extremely quickly. From the pit, gets removed, becomes a slave. This is a man who was in his father's house, had everything, had the beautiful tunic, had 11 siblings, had the riches, had access to so much abundance, right? And yet ends up in this pit, becomes a slave. From the slavery, what it appears to get a promotion in Potiphar's house, right? From Potiphar's house, he ends up in prison.
Right.
Demotion. What's worse, the pit or or the jail cell? Back in those times, jail cells are probably worse than the pit, one would argue. Just the conditions, right? But not to get too crazy into the details. In the jail cell, his gift opened the door yet again. Every step, every time he fell, every difficult season in his life, his gift was opening doors. And I think was God was teaching and training him both in leadership and to really get acclimated with his gift. Because it's one thing to have a gift, but if you don't know how to use your gift, you're not going to be an effective leader. So a lot of times you're going through these difficult moments and you're putting yourself in this jail so that you shouldn't be there, maybe for a temporary moment. But God is telling you, no, you keep going because I'm aligning you correctly, and I'm processing you, and I'm molding you, right, and maturing you and aligning you with your gift so that you can be an effective leader, so you can accomplish what I have for your life, okay? Which is going to be a great blessing, not just for yourself, but for those around you. So he goes from the jail cell now to the palace, second in command, okay? His purpose in the pit was never to get out of the pit. His purpose in the pit was to become the man that saved, I would say, humanity and saved many nations, right? We know the story. A lot of us know the story, right? Even the listeners. And I guess the point of me saying this story is Joseph kept going. He had a gift. The gift was opening doors, but Joseph also walked through those doors and moved on to the next stage of his life, even if it was worse. Okay, sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. And you have to recognize that. You can't give up. You got to keep going. I always kept going. Elisha, it's one thing that I'll tell you, I never give up. I never stay stuck. I'm the only child, but guess what? When I have the Lord by my side, that doesn't matter. I don't care who will rise against me. And I don't say that to be arrogant or to feel like,
I get it. I have that mindset too, but go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I have that. And there's families that have risen against my household and my parents in ministry. And
right. I bet you got some stories about that. I got that, right.
It's my mom, my dad, and me. And we've had entire families, even other congregations, unfortunately, I don't know why these things happen, that rise against us, but we always saw God's hand over our life and God opening doors, our gift and God opening doors. And at the darkest moment of the night, the light comes out.
Amen. 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 So I was saying to that is your gift has made room for you. You know what I mean? And the trials, they weren't just the trials were trials, but the trials were also opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
It was a learning lesson. It brought you to a better place. And the fact that you didn't give up. You know, how many times do we give up before we were supposed to give up? You know?
Absolutely.
And I also think too, and I'll say this, that one of the differences from being in the sand versus being in the grass is the mindset shift from a mindset of lack, a mindset of poverty, to a mindset of abundance, when there's more than enough room at the table for everybody. You know,
Agreed.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Mindset is such an important topic. As much as we hear about it, I would say in the past couple of years of conversations around mindset, I feel like there's still more conversations that should be happening, especially with young people, because young people are vulnerable, and the enemy, I think, uses certain situations to affect people's minds, even adults, of course. And something as simple as people see this is my kid's cup that I'm holding up. It appears to be half empty, but the reality is actually 3/4 filled, you know?
Right, exactly.
So some people focus on the emptiness, but I'm focusing on the fullness of this cup, okay? And it's just thinking differently, have a more positive mindset. I'll give you one more example, Elijah. In my past, there's certain individuals that, I want to meet with you. And I would judge them quickly. I would say, he just wants something out of me.
Right.
Or
That's how a lot of us think. Like, he just wants something from me. Right.
Right. And I've worked really hard to shift that. I'm not perfect. I'm really not. There's still things that I'm working with, right? All of us. We're a work in progress. But I've shifted that mindset from that might be what it appears, but maybe it's not. There's always every meeting, every opportunity, even when it appears to be insignificant, there's some significance that comes out of it. And every time I've overlooked somebody or underestimated somebody, I've been humbled by the Lord. I think He's done it on purpose. I realized that there was a greater benefit that came out of that conversation. Sometimes I feel like I got more out of it than what they got out of it.
Mm.
The Lord humbling me and molding me, because in leadership, you have to listen to people and you can't be judgmental, to be open-minded and think positively and have a positive outlook on all the interactions. Everyone that reaches out to you is an opportunity that you have to impact people, or for those people to impact you, but it's still an opportunity. Now, obviously, if you meeting with somebody and they're constantly hurting you, then that's a different thing. But I guess we have to be positive. We have to be open for business, open to breathe and have a moment to listen to what the Lord has to say to us in a personal relationship setting, so that we can take the next step. Okay. And the importance of prayer. You said, how I've overcame all these things. The importance of prayer and just taking time to speak to the Lord and take the time to listen. Okay. Because a lot of us are great at talking, but not all of us are great at listening. Okay.
Right.
And that's also something we have to work on as people in general. I think most people, we struggle with listening, and listening, I would say, is more important than talking. I forget who the philosopher was. I don't know if that was Aristotle, but he sometimes acted dumb and was quiet to listen to people, because it was a skill set that allowed his mind to grow even more as he learned from others. And even if he felt he was superior in a certain topic or conversation, he was probably greater than anyone he was talking to at any point in his life. He was just
A brilliant
a very
man.
brilliant
Mhm.
man. And yet he realized that there's always benefit in listening. And I
Mhm.
think we need to listen. And I'll say this, Elijah, as well, and I'll finish with this. So part of listening is also, when you recognize something that you could do better, is listening and applying that in your life, taking action. Because
Absolutely.
if you give me advice and you're a professional in the mental health space, right? And I already think I know everything. And even though I don't, right? Especially in the mental health space, you're the professional. I'm not a mental health professional. But a lot of people are closed-minded. I should be listening and taking the information and applying it to my life. So the application is just as important.
Another reason why community is so important too, adding to what you're saying, is opportunities come through and from people. Doors open through and from connections with people. And so, right, which is why we have to also be careful. That's why there are some people that are only in your life for a season, because they or you are going in a different direction, or there's been a growth shift that's changed. And we have to be open to letting go, because you don't know what opportunities that you may be keeping
Missing
yourself
out.
from by holding on to someone for too long.
That's a good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your spirit will identify when you're holding on to something too long,
Yeah.
and you'll know.
Absolutely. You'll
We're
know.
God made us very intelligent beings. It's okay to move on and restructure life. And there's people that it's okay to love them from a distance. Hey,
So
how's everything going? You're a great person. Continue.
I would say, Armando, that part of your success has been your community of
Yes.
people,
Yes.
like with
Absolutely.
your business partner and the team that you have with you, who've partnered with you.
People that I work with, other agents in the market
Mhm.
that I'm friends with, and we need people. I think if God made all these people and put them on earth for a reason, we need each other.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You
we
know, I
really
think
do. We really do. Well, I want to thank you for joining the show and for sharing your story about how you got to where you are. I think it's inspiring, if anything. And audience, there are so many things that we talked about. Your gift will make room for you. Don't give up. That was a big one. And honor the work ethic, honor where you came from. It helps, at least in Armando's situation, it helped build building blocks for him to experience prosperity for where he is today. So I want to thank you for joining us on the show today. Armando, how can someone learn more about you if they want to connect with you, if they're interested in buying real estate and all this other stuff? Like, how can they contact you?
One last time, Elisha, I'm really appreciative of this opportunity to speak to your people, right? Your audience. Humbled by this opportunity. I don't take it for granted. I'm very, very satisfied that you gave me this opportunity. So yeah, Flipping Roman on Instagram. That's my Instagram tag. Flipping Roman. On Facebook, it's Armando Roman. And yeah, those are the two main sources you can find me.
Okay. So, of course, I will have his information in the show notes, audience, so you'll have that. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Take some of the jewels, take some of the stones, put them in your bag as you're traveling in your healing journey, and share in the comments what spoke to you as we continue to support each other within our community of Elisha Space. Well, guys, until next time, looking forward to finding out more from you all as how this is growing for you. All right. Thanks so much and see you next time.